everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies, featuring recipes from the World of Tolkien. We're about to start this month off with the appetizer, spiced pear and cranberry muffins. First up this is another recipe with stories and plenty of flavor text. Let's go ahead and go through this. These cranberry-studded muffins are a great grab-and-go breakfast. The secret to airy light muffins is not over-mixing. Resist the temptation to stir your muffin batter vigorously until smooth. The batter should only be gently stirred, and lumps are fine as they'll disperse in the baking. The history of Middle-earth is full of gems and jewels, from the Silmarils to the Arkenstone. One place that is brimming with gems is the Glittering Caves, or Aglarond and Sindarin, that lie behind Helm's Deep in the White Mountains. With their high, domed ceilings, sandy floors, and polished walls set with gems, crystals and veins of ore, it's no wonder that Gimli the dwarf is astounded by the cave's beauty, so much so that he returns there after the War of the Ring to found a new dwarven kingdom. These muffins have bright red cranberries scattered throughout, like gems in a mine. Their warm golden color further echoes the sandy stone of Aglarond. Well, we'll find out about all of that because the ingredients are waiting for us at the table, but before we move in that direction, there are a couple things. There's one thing I want to talk about in this cookbook. One thing that they do that's really annoying to me is they measure everything out in grams instead of in traditional cups and cups and all that fun stuff. So what I'm going to do in the description where I normally put the recipe for all recipes this month, I'm going to take the liberties of making those gram conversions into cups. So both measurements will be in the description down in the recipe down below in the description. So if you use grams, you'll have that there, but if you use cups like I do, that will be down there instead. Now, with that out of the way, now we can move over to the table to see what the ingredients are for this recipe. You'll probably hear both the oven chirping and the kettle going gangbusters. I've got the kettle boiling water that we're going to need for the recipe, and the oven's preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. To make this recipe, we need 40 grams, or 2/3 of a cup of dried cranberries, 2 tablespoons of boiling water, which I'm going to use half of the 1/4 cup for that, and again, I've got the kettle going right now boiling the water, 3 small ripe pears. A step later will call for us to quarter, core, peel, and dice the pears. But as you can see, I've already done that in the midst of preparing for this recipe. 300 grams, or 2 1/3 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, 125 grams of castor sugar, or 3/4 of a cup. Plus extra for sprinkling, I'm going to use regular sugar instead since I don't have castor sugar. 50 grams, or 1/4 of a cup of butter that's been melted, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 eggs, and 150 grams, or half a cup of natural yogurt. So with that, let's move into the kitchen and start putting this recipe together. The water in the kettle is still boiling, so we're going to go to the next step for the time being. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the flour, baking powder, spices, and sugar and put them in a mixing bowl. So we're going to get our flour, and I think using this measuring cup was actually a pretty bad idea. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to grab my 1/3 cup out, which is right here. And we want 2 1/3 cups, so it's just 7 times scooping with this. 1. And now the kettle's going with the water. 2. 3. And the kettle just shut off. 4. 5. 6. And 7. We're going to pause from here for just a second while I deal with what I need the boiling water for. because that's got a time component to it. So I want to get that. So I want to get that going as fast as I can. That way I can set the time. That way I can set the time for that and be like, okay, we're set to go here. So we'll pause from that for just we'll pause from preparing the dry ingredients in the mixing bowl. We'll bring the cranberries into shot for a minute. So we're going to take 2/3 of a cup of our dried cranberries. Put them into a cup. The oven's also still coming up to temperature. Okay. I should be able to get a little more in there. There we are. That can go back up. That can go into the cup. And then I'm not going to bring you over toward the kettle, and I'm not going to bring the kettle over here because hot water is not... Hot water is something I could probably transport fine, but I'd rather not take a chance on something going haywire. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing the cranberries over to the water. I'm going to lift this off the boiler. And again, I don't feel like wearing boiled water today, so we're going to be very careful about that. And I'm going to grab what's going to be about half of this quarter measuring cup of water. I'd rather be a little bit over on that, so I'm trying to be careful, but reading the meniscus in here. Okay, yeah, that should be fine. So we'll just pour that in, and we'll let that soak for 10 minutes. So let me get the timer set for that. And we'll put that aside. We'll put those aside to soak for 10 minutes. So now coming back to our dry ingredients. As I mentioned, we've got the flour in the mixing bowl already. Next we want the baking powder, which is going to be which we need 3 teaspoons of the baking powder. 1, 2, and 3. A teaspoon of cinnamon, which hopefully my teaspoon here will fit into. Yep. Barely, but it'll go. Perfect. And finally, the half a teaspoon of nutmeg. I don't think I need the teaspoon again, do I? No. And there's the nutmeg that just went in. And all of this can go back up. We'll give that just a light mix up. And then we'll bring another mixing bowl in shot. I lied. We're not quite ready to bring the wet ingredients in shot because somebody decided to forget about the sugar. So we need 3/4 of a cup of that. 1, 2, and 3. We'll leave the 1/4 cup available for the time being, since we will need that later for dusting purposes. And we'll give this another quick mix up. Now we can bring the dry ingredients out of the way and bring another mixing bowl in shot. And just in time for me to turn the camera on and start talking, the oven comes up to temperature. So now we've got another mixing bowl in shot. So now we want to put the wet ingredients together. So we're going to bring in the melted butter. I don't think it's actually specified. I just happen to have a half cup of unsalted available, so that's what I'm using. I just realized that. scrape out as much of this butter as I can. There we are. Jarred the camera, but that's what happens when it's on a kitchen rug. Just trying to make sure it stays something resembling in position. Let's see, now we want the olive oil. I've got my 1.5 tablespoon measuring spoon right here, so I only need 2 of these. There's 1 and 2. Okay. Three eggs. And since my record of cracking eggs is usually pretty good, but I don't want to have any problems, I'm going to grab a spoon in case I get any spare pieces of, shell in there. So here's 1 egg. Looks all good there. 2. And 3. There we go. Perfect. No problems with the eggs there. And finally, our 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt. They probably just want natural yogurt, but I'm going to use Greek for this. Alright, we'll get our 1/2 cup of that out. I'll grab us another spatula so I can scrape more of it out. I think we got most of it. That can go back in the fridge. As can the eggs. And then we'll go ahead and whisk that together. I'm going to get another spatula ready here because I'll need it once I get done here. Does it give me any kind of a threshold to aim for? The printout I have here doesn't, but nope, it just says whisk it together. Okay, I think that's as whisked together as I'm going to get it. So now we want to bring the flour mixture back in shot so we can combine everything together. So we got the flour mixture here. We'll add the egg mixture to it. And this is where I need, well, we'll see if the whisk does the job as a spatula. It's doing decently well, I think. But we'll bring a spatula over anyway. Looks like the timer on the pears is going, or not the pears, the timer on the cranberries is going to be going off very shortly here as well. Okay, so that's all good there. And combined with the flour mixture. Okay, so we want to mix it lightly. Remember, lumps are fine as they'll come out in the baking. So we'll start mixing this slowly, but the timer is about to go off. Alright, we're actually going to wait for the timer to go off here. Since it's about to, there's the timer. That is not wanting to stay for me. There we go. That's going to work. Okay, so now that the timer's gone off, now we want to drain the cranberries without pouring any of the cranberries out. Thankfully, it's only mildly warm water as opposed to the boiling we had earlier. So now we're going to add the cranberries. Give my hands a quick wash. Along with the pears. And now we're going to mix everything together. And again, we want this to be light. I'm definitely trying not to go nuts with this since they're saying, again, that lumps are fine as everything will come out in the baking. Okay. I was a little worried that we were going to get enough liquid in here, but I think now that we've added the pears and the cranberries to the mix, it should be fine at this point. So I think now we're all set. So now we're going to bring the muffin tin in shot. As you can see, I've sprayed down a muffin tin. That's just a habit I've gotten into to make cleanup easier. And I've put paper muffin cups in each of the spots in there. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to spoon into these. We're going to spoon the mixture into these muffin tins. We'll do a few on camera. Then I'll do the rest off. So let's see. And that's all it says, is just spoon some into each tin. So as I said, we'll do a few of these on camera. Actually, we can probably just go ahead and do all of them and call it good. Yeah, this shouldn't take too long. Hopefully these aren't going to rise too obscenely high, but I'm expecting that most of them will. We've got some of the mix that didn't stick together here, so that also might be a little bit of a cause for concern. That's going to be a huge muffin, I'm sure. I think I probably needed to slice these. Probably needed to slice the pears a bit finer, and I'm going to get a lot more than 12 muffins out of here. So I'm betting so it looks like about half this batter is probably going to end up going to waste because I don't have another muffin tin here. Ooh. Yeah. Had a little piece of pear fall on the floor there. That can go there. Okay. And yeah, we're going to end up with a little bit of the batter here going to waste. Which again is unfortunate, but really not much I can do about that. At least not in the immediate term. Maybe I can put a little more into... Actually, there's a couple of these I could put a little more into. Hopefully everything will stick mostly together. But I'm far from sure of that happening here. Okay. So I think we are good there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bake these in the preheated oven for 15 to 18 minutes until they're well risen and golden. So I'm going to bring the camera out of the way so I have an easier time getting these in the oven. There we are. And we'll set the timer for 18 minutes and we'll come back to them after they come out of the oven. Here's our first look at the muffins as they're coming out of the oven. We're going to set a kitchen timer for 5 minutes to let them cool at least that long. But they're probably going to cool a little bit longer than that while I continue working on dishes. But after that, I'll transfer these over to a wire rack. Then we'll take one over to my desk. We're not going to stop at the wire rack though. We'll be moving over from here to my desk by the power of editing for the taste test. Looking at the muffins, I probably could have packed them down a little bit more orderly so they rose a bit more easily than that, but looks like everything's fine. Everything seemed to be holding together well. Let's give it a taste though and see what I think. I do enjoy a good muffin, so let's see what I think of these. And the paper, well, these are actually fresh, so the paper for the first one's peeling very well. We'll see what happens in a couple days. This is actually pretty good. Throw a little bit, I got a big piece of pear in there as I was chewing. Throw in, put a little bit of butter on these, and people who love muffins would probably be in heaven, especially with something like this that's this fresh coming out of the oven. But yeah, it's actually not a bad combination of spices. I forgot to add the extra dusting of sugar before it went in the oven for baking, but otherwise, it was probably about the right amount of sugar, to be honest. I don't usually like anything that's got excessive amounts of sugar on it. But that's another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. Next week we will be making these side strawberry and lavender shortcakes. Still plenty of great gaming content coming up on the channel. As actually later this afternoon, we're going to have a double header in my 1985 replay and season ticket baseball. As first up, we will be going over to Shea Stadium in New York City for a National League matchup between the Cincinnati Reds and the New York Mets. Tom Browning will be going for the Reds, and Ron Darling will be on the mound for the Mets. Then tomorrow morning, we're going to be ending the winter campaign in Arkham Horror the card game with the last scenario in Scarlet Keys as we face the Congress of the Keys. Wednesday, we'll be playing game number 2 on my War Room 10 game challenge as we play Mag 23 Guadalcanal from Historic Wings. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.